Hi, welcome back to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I review the movies, and I'm super excited to talk about today's movie because it is getting Oscar buzz, not only for the film itself, but for directing, for the actors, so many elements of this movie. I think it's amazing. However, this is not a movie that everyone is going to enjoy. Let me just dive straight into my review so you know what I'm talking about. First of all, this movie will be available on Netflix on February 5th, 2021. The movie is rated R. It's an hour and 46 minutes. And the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is a big fat A. I thought it was amazing. So let me explain why. And with that explanation, I'll also tell you why you might not want to watch this movie. All right, so first, let me start in a nutshell. It's brilliantly written and directed by Sam Levinson. This is one of the very first movies to be written, directed, filmed, and produced during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is amazing, just that in and of itself. The entire movie was filmed in black and white, which is a visual symbol that speaks volumes, making this movie a piece of modern art. Truly. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So, John David Washington plays a filmmaker on the night of his premiere. And as a film critic myself, his character's perspective and comments gave me a lot to think about. I have always confessed that I've never made a movie. I've never even tried to make a movie. And yet here I am criticizing other people's work as if I could do it so much better. And I recognize the irony in that. As a movie review mom, my goal is to always give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision for you and your family as to whether or not you want to spend your time or your money or both watching a specific film. So I come to my film critic role from a mom's perspective, but I can't ignore exceptional filmmaking when I see it. That being said, this is not a movie that I would recommend for kids for many reasons. And again, I'll get to that. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself. I'll give you some tips for parents and other things in just a few minutes. So John David Washington's character and Zendaya's character spend the entire movie, just the two of them, talking about film, love, relationships, gratitude, politics, art, and so many other things that I think are just fascinating. Let me point out some of the things I really liked about the movie, and then I'll point out some that I didn't like, and then give you some tips for parents, some themes that are worth talking about, and even some recommendations for other movies that I think that you will really enjoy if you like this one. So first of all, some of the things that I really, really liked include the fact that this movie only has two cast members. That is extremely impressive, especially considering how compelling they are to watch for almost 2 entire hours. So first, I'm such a huge fan of John David Washington. Thought he was stellar in this movie. I think I first really paid attention to him in Black Klansman, which I thought he was excellent in that also. In this movie, he is just jaw dropping. And by the way, did you know that he is the son of award-winning actor Denzel Washington? Well, no surprise. In fact, there's a scene at about the 40-minute mark that was just truly amazing. And it immediately reminded me of some of the unbelievable monologues that his father, Denzel Washington, gave in the movie Fences, which he should have won an Academy Award for, I thought. It also reminded me of the jaw-dropping performance of Adam Driver in the movie Marriage Story, where literally my jaw dropped to the floor during this one scene where he just goes ballistic. And I was like, please give this actor an Academy Award. Unfortunately, he didn't win. That was the year Joaquin Phoenix won for his performance in The Joker, which was a great performance. But at least Adam Driver was nominated, and John David Washington should at least be nominated for his performance in this movie. John David also joined the team of producers for this film. So Zendaya is the second amazing actor in this movie. She's only 24 years old and is already so incredibly accomplished in cinema. For being 12 years younger than John David, she sure did match his performance in this movie. And some are saying that she should, of course, also be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, but probably win as well. I felt like she really grew up in this movie and gave an extremely mature and impressive performance that put her on the map for me. I mean, I've liked some of the other things that she's done, but this one I was like, whoa, okay, now she's in the game. Because the movie was filmed during the pandemic, she actually did all of her own makeup, costume design, and set dressings to make this movie happen. She also joined John David as a producer for the film. And in fact, she was the one who contacted Sam Levinson originally to kickstart this project. The two of them had grown apparently artistically very close during the filming of Euphoria and continued to collaborate. They should all be extremely proud of this work. The direction and the camera work were artistic masterpieces, truly stunning. And I love that the movie was filmed in black and white. Every frame is immaculate. The film is just gorgeous to look at. There's mention of the classic black and white movie Citizen Kane, and I just think that the director of that movie, Orson Welles, would have been very proud of this film as well. Fantastic one shot scenes, especially towards the beginning of the movie. And speaking of movies, I thought that the references to the Lego movie as being this on fire masterpiece of a movie were just hilarious because that movie really was a good movie. There are so many insightful comments about cinema in this movie. And so if you watch this movie, consider watching it with the captions turned on so that you can hit the pause button and really analyze and savor each flavorful line in the movie during these monologues. It's just, I couldn't write them down fast enough. I was like, oh, that was so good. At the very end of the rolling credits, there's a CeeLo song that plays, and I thought that it was perfect. He sings, "There's a fine line between love and hate." The song is from the Outcast track, Liberation. You will feel all the feels, especially if you've ever been in a romantic relationship. You'll just go, oh, that sounds so familiar. I actually have a good friend who has a relationship kind of like this. And she says they spend 3 hours having these conversations or fights, I guess, depending on how you look at it. And I just think, oh, that would be so exhausting to have a relationship like that. It's powerful the way that this film portrays that type of a volatile relationship. And it was just fascinating to watch the moods evolve during each of the scenes and how the scenes really blended into each other as a natural conversation would evolve. Anyway, just brilliant. Word has it that part of this movie's story was actually inspired by when Sam Levinson actually forgot to thank his wife in a speech at the Sundance Film Festival. Ouch. Well, more than ouch. And that's really where this movie starts. Now, with all of my sincere, tremendous praise for this movie, there were some things I didn't like. So I want you to pay attention because this will reveal whether or not this is going to be a movie that you actually enjoy. First of all, some viewers just really won't like watching a film in black and white. They just think, oh, it looks too old fashioned, And so if you feel that way, then don't watch the movie because the black and white choice was a creative decision that I just thought was artistically brilliant. But if you can't get past the black and white, that's fine. Just skip this movie. When the actors whisper to each other when they're not yelling, it's hard to hear what they're saying, but most of the time their volume is quite high. And in fact, that constant fighting and yelling is so exhausting. It really is. And I felt like I was being physically assaulted with all of the crude, violent language, so many F bombs. And I just was like, okay, I know people talk like that. I don't. So it was just exhausting. Um, but that's who they were. And it was also a way for them to emphasize their anger and their hurt. And I get that artistically, I understand. Because I love Zendaya so much, it just made my heart hurt watching her smoke, causing some damage to her cute body. And I also wish that Zendaya hadn't been in her very revealing underwear during the majority of the movie. Again, for me, it was just awkward and uncomfortable. However, I also understand that artistic choice to represent a visual portrayal of vulnerability. And in that regard, I thought it was very effective. So, along those lines, let me give you some tips for parents. First of all, I don't recommend this movie for kids at all. You see a woman sit on a toilet and later in a bathtub, but her private parts are covered, so that's good. Later, though, you see her in this very skimpy, revealing underwear that she wears for the entire movie. There's a lot of profanity, crude language, and so many F bombs, as I mentioned before, including the N word, which is used several times. Kids are going to be completely bored. And partly it's because it's all diving into the nuances and the many layers of relationships, so they won't even appreciate what they're seeing even if they saw it. But again, I don't recommend it for kids. There's lots and lots of smoking and drinking, talk of drug use and rehab, and talk of sex. You see them kind of cuddle and kiss and roll around a little bit, but it doesn't go beyond that because the fight kicks up again. Not to give you a spoiler, but they're not done talking and sharing how they feel about each other and their experiences with what's happening and all of that. Now, there were so many themes introduced in this movie that are worth talking about. And I would love for you to write down below what you thought about this movie and some of the themes that you drew out of it. The ones that I noticed right off the top were obviously love, relationships, taking people for granted, communication, gratitude, just say thank you for heaven's sakes, race and gender, the art of cinema, film critics, and the craft of art making. Now, I write down funny lines and interesting lines whenever I watch movies, and I share them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So you can run over there and see some of the ones that I wrote, but I'll just share a couple of them with you right now. There is some humor in the movie. And so some of the funny lines that I wrote down was Zendaya's character says something. She's imitating this film critic who's white, a white woman. And so Malcolm, she says this line, and then Malcolm says, "Your white voice is crazy." He was complimenting her. And then another part of a conversation, he was saying it was a super white moment. Race is definitely an element of the movie, despite his protesting that his movie was not race based. And yet he is a Black filmmaker. So, anyway, it offered some interesting perspective. And then there's another line where Malcolm says, "I'm tired of fighting, Marie." And she says, "Well, that was a fight you had entirely with yourself." Because he went on this massive monologue and he just got all angry and upset. And she wasn't even involved in that part of the conversation. And then another line that I thought was cute. Okay, I'm telling you more than just a couple, but he said, Malcolm says to Marie, "I feel like we're going to get married and divorced a couple of times, so we might as well get started." All right. And then in the list of interesting lines, I'll just share one. And this is one that Malcolm says, and he throws in an F bomb, but I'm not going to say it. He says, "Cinema doesn't have to have a message. It needs to have an effing heart." And that made me stop in my tracks. And I thought, do I agree with that or not? Definitely, cinema definitely needs to have heart. Should it have a message? For me, I think it should. I'm always looking for themes and messages in movies, and I feel like the filmmaker wouldn't make the movie unless he had something interesting to say, right? So anyway, I just thought that that was a really interesting line. All right, and so before we go, I've already mentioned two movies, but I want to recommend them very strongly because they're so powerful. One is Fences, again, starring Denzel Washington, John David's father, also Viola Davis, and they're both outstanding. And then the other movie is with Adam Driver called Marriage Story, and it also stars Scarlett Johansson, and they were both great. All right, if you see this movie, I hope that you appreciate the artistry involved. I would love to see it nominated for Picture of the Year. I thought it was that good, that well made of a movie, and just represents the craft of filmmaking on several levels. Hopefully, at least it gets nominated. That's it for my review. Thank you so much for subscribing. Be sure and comment down below. YouTube gives me all kinds of YouTube juice whenever people comment and interact with my movie reviews. So I hope that you'll consider talking to me and liking the video. And thanks to all of you who are going over to Patreon to support me there. Thank you so much. All right, have a great day. I'll catch you in the next movie review. Bye for now.